The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Laughing
At
birds.
welcome.
Laughing at birds every Saturday, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check your local podcast list.
It is 1917.
I
Fighting
got it.
rages on the Eastern Front of the First World War. Both Germany and Russia are on the brink of collapse. Soldier, I need you to bring me this man. Got it. Found him, sir. What?
What the fuck is that?
No, not Lenin. Lenin, the Russian communist. What? Why would I need a beetle? Lenin, the Russian communist. He was exiled to Switzerland. You know what? I'll do it.
Wait. Who the fuck is this guy? So whoever this dude is, the Russians went and got... Wait, hold on. I'm confused already. I gotta go backwards a little bit because I'm a dumbass. You have to excuse me.
The year is 1917.
I got that
Fighting
part.
rages on the Eastern Front of the
Yeah.
First World War. Both Germany and Russia are on the brink of collapse. Soldier, I need you to bring me this man.
Oh, duh. It says Germany right
Got it.
there, idiot.
Found him, sir. What?
So where the fuck... Who the fuck are you, dude? I didn't know he was German. I don't know nothing about the Beatles, dude. This is no good.
No, not Lenin. Lenin, the Russian communist. What? Why would I need a beetle? Lenin, the Russian communist. He was exiled to Switzerland. You know what? I'll do it myself. Who wants to start a revolution? The Germans put Lenin on a train and sent him all the way back to Russia, hoping he and his mates would create an internal crisis. And create an internal crisis they did. The government was overthrown, and Lenin was in charge. He immediately pulled out of the First World War, made the country communist, started a
Hold on, dude. One guy went over there and threw the whole thing. That's wild.
three-year-long civil war, got shot, broke the economy, caused
What?
a famine, and then he died. On his deathbed he said, "Hey man,
I'm an
tell whoever's
asshole."
in charge of giving people jobs not to let that jerk Stalin become the next leader." By the way, who did I put in charge of giving people jobs? That would be Stalin, sir.
Ugh.
Stalin was a rising force in the
Moron.
Communist Party. He still had some opponents, but conveniently, all of them were arrested or disappeared. So that was lucky. And so Stalin took over. He implemented his
Sure.
5-year plans, which transformed the country from an agriculture-based economy to an industrial one. And like Lenin before him, he reigned with terror. Anyone who dared criticize or oppose him would either be killed or left to rot in the horrendous Soviet work camps. Then a short man with a silly mustache tried to take over the world, punched the Russians all
fuck
the way
that
to
guy.
Moscow, and then the Russians, with some help from their faithful ally, the Winter, punched them all the way back to Berlin. At this point, being allies, America, the UK, and the Soviet Union were good chums. They held a couple of conferences near the end of the war to decide what would happen next. Hey Stalin, after all your trials and tribulation, you must be pretty happy to be standing here in Berlin. Tsar Alexander made it all
So we've been fucking with scumbags forever, dude. That's horrible.
the way to Paris.
Nature of the business, I guess.
Hey, just give me a second. Hey man, I think something's up with Stalin. I know, right? What should we do? Shall I tell him about the bomb? Yeah, tell him about the bomb. That will scare him.
Yeah, good idea.
So, we got
Good
this crazy
idea.
new big A-bomb that can destroy an entire city in one go. Yes, my spies told me already. Oh wait, I meant to act surprised. Wow, that's amazing. He already knew. How? Am I
got a
sure I want to
mole,
send nuclear
dummy.
secrets via unsecure public coffee shop Wi-Fi? Am I ever? Dude, use a VPN. And speaking of VPNs, if, like me, you take
Nice.
internet safety seriously,
Nice.
then you
Alright.
need NordVPN.
Alright.
NordVPN hides your online activities from outside intruders, preventing anyone from stealing your personal data and stopping your service providers selling your data to advertisers. With over
Okay, so do you think that they just take your information and just sell it and you pay them to do it instead? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
5,000 servers in 62 countries, it allows you to surf the net anonymously and securely. And it's simple to use. With just a click of a button, you can connect to a server halfway across the world, even allowing you to access streaming services from that specific territory.
So how are you not putting yourself out to get hacked, dude, if you're jumping on random servers in other countries? I don't know shit about shit, dude, and I should pull up my pants.
Say, for example,
That's
you
what I
wanted to
should
watch
do.
a certain oversimplified video that for some reason has been blocked in your country.
Yeah.
With NordVPN, you can. It works seamlessly across PC, mobile, and tablet. Go to
Yay.
nordvpn.com/oversimplified to get an amazing 75% off. That's
Yeah.
just $2.99 per month with an additional month free for a limited time. So again, that's NordVPN.
What they probably don't tell you is that they want you to pay up front for a fucking year, dude. Fuck that.
nordvpn.com/oversimplified, also in the description box down below. Now, where were we? Oh yeah.
I don't know, dude.
Does the A stand for atomic or ass? Then America dropped their big A-bomb on Japan, and World War II officially came to an end. Hooray, we won! Okay, so now it's time to establish the New World Order. Stalin, you're in charge of Eastern Europe. Now, we want you to let them all hold elections. Oh yes, of course, elections. And these elections will be free and fair, right? Oh yes, certainly, free and fair. Definitely free and fair. Communist...
How long ago was this? How long ago was this? And we're still doing the same shit. Obviously, it doesn't work, dude. What are we doing? But I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. But obviously, it ain't working.
Communist, 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 communist. If that's not free and fair, I don't know what is. Throughout Eastern Europe, Soviet puppet governments were established as a buffer zone between the USSR and the West, with Churchill proclaiming an Iron Curtain had descended across the continent. The relationship between the old allies was deteriorating fast. Over the next few years, the British intervened in the Greek Civil War to prevent a common...
Hold on a second, dude. I just saw
was deteriorating fast. Over the next few years, the British intervened in the Greek Civil War to prevent a communist takeover. In Turkey, the Russians began demanding more control of Turkey's sea access routes, which prompted the US to send their largest battleship to Turkey for a friendly visit. After World War II, Iran was now occupied by both the Soviets and the British, with an agreement to both pull out once the war was over. The British pulled out. Stalin was like, you know what? I think I might stick around. All in favor of kicking Russia out of Iran? You want to know something? You guys suck. Pressure from the UN forced the Soviets to leave, and with the establishment of NATO, the Soviets had no doubt that the West was out to encircle and destroy them. And America announced the Truman Doctrine, in which they basically said, those guys are not cool, cannot be trusted, and we will do everything we can to prevent the spread of communism around the world. Many view this moment as the official declaration of the Cold War. Back in
Now
Europe,
it all
everyone was living in
makes
a
sense, dude. Now I get it, kinda, a little bit. Not really, but yeah.
post-apocalyptic void brought on by the Second World War. Cities reduced to rubble, not enough food. It was terrible. This is great. The more they suffer, the more likely it is they'll turn to communism.
Bro, no
Dude,
wonder they
you're really
fucking
messed
hate
up.
us,
What's
dude.
wrong with you? My father used to punish me severely. America realized what
shit,
was going
no.
on and quickly made a move. Under the Marshall Plan, they sent $12 billion to Western Europe for its economic recovery. The countries of Stalin's Eastern Bloc looked on with envy. Hey, Czechoslovakia, you want to come get some economic aid? Yeah, but I have to check with my mom first.
Oh, that's filthy, dude.
Sorry, America. I can't come. This was a full-on economic battle raging between capitalism and communism in Europe. If the Western nations developed faster and better than the East, that would be a defeat for Stalin. So he set up his own
So
rival.
meanwhile, while these people
economic
measure each
recovery
other's while these people measure each other's dicks, dude, all these people in between are starving and dying, but let's not, you know.
which he called Comecon, and he also set up Common Form, which gave him more political control over the Eastern Bloc. But nowhere did this economic battle rage harder than in the city of Berlin. Caught over 100 miles behind Soviet lines, the city had been divided up between the Allies, and the western segments were still under Western control. East Berliners could travel freely to West Berlin, see the economic prosperity and think, maybe this communism thing ain't so great after all. I'm gonna have fun tonight.
Oh shit.
You're home late. Oh,
Oh,
Stalin.
shit.
I was just out with my friends. Friends? You stink of capitalism. You're out engaging in imperialist debauchery again. I
Bang,
swear,
bang.
Ivan, I can't keep doing this. Stalin wanted the West out. So he said, hey, guess what? I'm blockading all of your supply routes to West Berlin. What are you gonna do about it? I suppose we'll just fly the supplies in.
I guess they did that.
All right, Truman. you in this round. The Berlin airlift was an incredible undertaking and a major success for the Western Allies, and Stalin ended his blockade of West Berlin. His aggressive actions worried the West, but not as much as this did.
Holy shit.
The Soviet Union had developed their very own atomic bomb. The USA no longer had a nuclear monopoly. The world now knew that if a major war broke out between the two superpowers...
Why did you have to do it, dude? Why? Now we're all gonna die. Thanks a lot, asshole.
It would be more destructive than anyone could imagine. So it was comforting when Stalin came out and said that war between the Soviet Union and the West was unlikely.
Bro.
Oh, wait, inevitable.
This is why everybody hates fucking America, dude. This is exactly what it is. Fucking come on.
He said it was inevitable.
Damn.
Hey, you know who I haven't checked in on in a while? My good friend China. Whoa, what happened to you? What happened to them was a full-blown civil war that had been going on since 1927.
I forgot about that.
The people...
I forgot Japan was fucking China up for a while, dude.
People's Liberation Army, under the leadership of Mao Zedong, successfully defeated the Republic of China, who fled to Taiwan. The now communist China and the Soviet Union signed a mutual defense treaty. This was terrible news for the West. But wait. There's more. After the Second World War, Korea was divided along the 38th parallel. In the north, the Soviets set up a communist regime. In the south, America set up an anti-communist regime. Both were led by very sweet-looking old men, but don't let that deceive you. They were both ruthless dictators, and both dreamed of reuniting Korea under their own regime. Now that he had the bomb, Stalin was feeling a little more cocky, and he finally gave Kim permission to attack. The North launched a surprise invasion of the South on June 25th, 1950. With Soviet aid, the North Koreans steamrolled through, taking Seoul in just 3 days and replacing one ruthless dictator with another. The UN were freaking out and quickly created an emergency force made up of troops from 16 countries to defend the South. The West still held Busan and made landings at Incheon near Seoul. They pushed the North Koreans out of Seoul, replacing the ruthless dictator that had replaced the first ruthless dictator with the same ruthless dictator that had previously been replaced by the new ruthless dictator.
So
and the West then continued all the way up the Korean Peninsula. At this point, China was getting worried that the UN may just keep going. The US had sent this guy to lead the operation. After winning the Pacific Theater of World War II, General Douglas MacArthur's head was big and his balls were bigger. He reassured President Truman that there was absolutely no way at all that the Chinese would ever get involved. Meanwhile, 500,000 Chinese troops were crossing into Korea.
Of course they were, man. What? You can't do that. You can't do that.
No,
you can't do that, dude.
Oh, come on. You're fired.
Dude, yeah,
the U.S. considered the nuclear option, but now that the Soviets also had the bomb, they didn't want to risk all-out global destruction. The communists pushed the West right back almost to the exact same spot they had all started
from. Then you all would have looked like me. Aren't you happy that didn't happen? You all would have fucked around and walked around like me, dude.
Stalemate, where they remained until both sides finally agreed to work towards a peace settlement in 2018. Back in America, Americans decided they wanted a new president who would be tough on communism, so they elected famed World War II General Eisenhower, who is really hard to draw. It's 1953. Hey, Stalin.
Oh, this is the asshole that did this shit.
He had a cerebral hemorrhage, and his reign of terror kinda came back to bite him in the ass, because he had imprisoned all of his best doctors, and those that were left were too terrified to treat him. The new leader, Nikita Khrushchev, called a meeting and said, "Hey guys, you know how Stalin was imprisoning and murdering us all for doing basically nothing? Yeah, he was kind of a jerk. I'm really not sure how this is news to you." Khrushchev went on a campaign of de-Stalinization. Statues of Stalin were taken down, Stalingrad was renamed, and Khrushchev announced that he wanted the Soviet people to be happy and would allow greater freedom in the Soviet Union. So how did that work out? Well, an uprising in East Germany was brutally suppressed, a revolution in Hungary was brutally suppressed, and demonstrations in Poland were brutally suppressed. Although he did finally allow some mild reforms. Back in the Soviet Union, he permitted more cultural expression, but then began banning stuff based on his own personal taste. Modern art looks like a child urinated on a canvas. Banned. Jazz music sounds like the feeling of needing to fart. Banned. Your poetry is really depressing. How could anyone in the Soviet Union be depressed? You're banned. Khrushchev wanted the Soviet people to be happy, but not like that. Or that.
Oh, he's got a Twitter account, this fucking guy. He's canceling everybody.
Or that. Young people began enjoying abhorrent Western pop culture. Son, remove that disgusting imperialist apparel at once. Shut up, Dad. You can't tell me what to do. Well, would you look at that? Turns out he can tell me what to do. The West had initially liked the cut of Khrushchev's jib, but world events soon soured relations even more. The two sides were spying on each other a whole lot throughout the Cold War. The KGB had spies and informants in nearly every aspect of Western life and government, so much so that whenever the US tried to send spies into the Soviet Union, the KGB were usually ready to arrest them on the spot. Members...
I seen a show about this, dude. It was a Russian couple that's pretending to be American. Shit is wild, man. I gotta go back and rewatch that shit over. If that's based off of this.
of the Manhattan Project aided the Soviet Union in acquiring the bomb. Some American officials believed they were on the wrong side. I'll sell you 3 secrets for $5 million.
What the
okay,
fuck, dude?
Go ahead. The Allies are digging a tunnel under East Berlin to tap your communications. There's an American agent living at this address in Moscow. And sometimes, when I'm home alone, I like to put on my wife's dresses, sit in the corner, and cry for hours.
You know what?
Very interesting.
Go lay down
In America,
somewhere.
fear took hold during the Red Scare and the McCarthy trials. American values imploded as fear of communism collided with freedom of thought and expression, and communist kind of became a buzzword thrown around to describe anything people didn't like.
I think it still is, dude. And I don't know what the fuck that means.
Communist. Your next door neighbor's dog? Communist. When the grocery store cashier asks if you need a bag when you clearly can't carry 10 tubs of baconaise in your hands, communist. But one area in particular where the US had an edge over the Soviet Union was in its espionage technology. In particular, U-2 spy planes flew across Russia carrying out surveillance from the skies. There was a nasty incident in 1960 though, when one was shot down and Khrushchev was furious. Who the hell is this? He's a high-altitude weather enthusiast who flew off course. Okay, that sounds plausible. Wait a minute. Why does he have a gun and a poison needle? Because he's a very naughty high-altitude weather enthusiast. But much to America's concern, the Soviet Union appeared to be ahead in the space race. Everyone freaked out when Russia launched the world's first satellite, and then they actually sent a man into space. Even worse, there also appeared to be a missile gap in the Soviets' favor, and Khrushchev was so confident that he even allowed the US to set up a technology exhibit in Moscow, attended by a certain Vice President Richard Nixon. Check this out. We have color TV. Yes, but we've been to space and can obliterate you with our massive nuclear arsenal. Check out this vegetable peeler. Tensions increased further when both sides upgraded their atomic bombs to hydrogen bombs. And after West Germany was allowed to join NATO in 1955, Khrushchev set up the Defensive Warsaw Pact, strengthening the military ties between the Soviet Union and its satellite states. In 1960, Americans decided they wanted a new president who would be tough on communism, so they elected John F. Kennedy. The Soviet Union was advancing its technology, but it was also bleeding its coffers dry, and all of the money was going towards the military, not the people. Life under communism was still as hard as ever, and Berlin remained a thorn in the Soviet side. The contrast between the economically prosperous West and the struggling East was clearer day by day, and East Berliners were still able to freely travel to the West. Now, many of them were deciding to stay there. Millions defected to West Germany via West Berlin, causing Eastern factories to lose workers and taking a heavy toll on the economy. Soviet leaders decided this couldn't continue any longer. First, Khrushchev tried this: leave West Berlin, or else. Or else what? Or else, I'll be really mad at you. Yeah, no, we're gonna stay. Listen, man, West Berlin is ours, East Berlin is yours. That's just how it is. Kennedy felt pretty good about his show of American resolve. But wait a second, did you catch that? Let's replay it.
East Berlin is yours.
Uh-oh, Kennedy just told Khrushchev that the USA wouldn't interfere in what the Soviets did with their section of Berlin. So Khrushchev came up with a new idea. We're gonna build a wall, and it's gonna be a big, beautiful wall, and it's gonna keep out all the Mexicans. Oh, sorry, it's gonna keep in all the Mexicans. On August 13th, 1961, Berliners woke up to find their city divided into two, with barbed wire and guards blocking the border between East and West. Over time, a wall was constructed throughout the city. Families were torn apart. Thousands would risk their lives escaping over the wall, and hundreds would die trying. To the despair of Berliners, the West were unable to do anything about it. But the wall did put on full display the failure of the communist system. As Kennedy said, democracy is not perfect, but we have never had to put a wall up to keep our people in. As part of the agreement between the two sides, US diplomats were still allowed to travel to East Berlin. But suddenly, East Berlin crossing guards started giving them the business. And Kennedy was like, nah. In October, the US rolled tanks up to the crossing point at Checkpoint Charlie as a show of strength. The Soviets did the same, and the two were in a standoff. They stayed like that for 16 hours, and the world braced for nuclear Armageddon. Thankfully, though, Kennedy called Khrushchev directly and was like, hey man, this is getting way too hot. How about you back your tanks up by an inch and we'll do the same? Sounds good. Okay, how about...
That's what happens when you get laid a lot, dude. You can make these types of decisions where you don't gotta... I shouldn't talk like that, kid.
You back your tanks up by another inch, and we'll follow suit. All right, hey, you want to do another inch? And they both very slowly inched away from the apocalypse. Phew, let's hope that's the biggest crisis of my presidency. It wasn't.
Yeah, we know that's right. Come on now, bro, what are you doing? Stop playing with me.
This video was
Trying
made
to
possible
learn,
by
goddammit.
Skillshare, an online learning community where you can learn just about anything. Support my channel by signing up using the link below and get your first 2 months for free.
I can't, man. I'm watching your shit. That's how I'm supporting you. I have 37 cents in the bank right now. That's not a joke, dude. So I'm not buying shit.
For anyone who thinks recent US history has never been as crazy as it is right now, allow me to present to you the 1960s. Extreme cultural division, major political assassinations, and the closest the world has ever come to nuclear apocalypse. Shocked by the CIA's intrusive methods for putting down socialism in Latin America, a certain Fidel Castro met with a certain Che Guevara in a bar in Mexico City, and the two of them decided they should grow some awesome beards and overthrow the Cuban government, which is exactly what they did. Cuba had been America's summer playground, and America didn't like seeing a communist regime being set up in its own backyard. So the US immediately began training up Cuban exiles to invade Cuba and overthrow Castro. However, as the day of the operation came closer, Kennedy wanted to conceal any US involvement in the plan. So he massively scaled back American air support, and as a result, the Bay of Pigs invasion was a humiliating defeat for America. But Castro felt there was still an impending US threat to his regime.
That was a shitty thing to do, man. I don't know nothing about nothing, but...
Meanwhile, in the Soviet Union, Khrushchev had a lot of medium-range nuclear missiles that couldn't reach America, but they could if they were positioned, say, on an exotic Caribbean island off the coast of Florida.
Right.
Hey, I'm a communist who hates America. You're a communist who hates America.
Well,
you know what that
you
means?
too.
We should fall in love. I was just gonna suggest you set your missiles up in Cuba. Oh, no, you're right. That's a better idea. Be still, my beating heart. On October 14th, 1962, a U-2 spy plane over Cuba noticed something strange. Sir, you need to look at this photograph. You're right. That's the cutest dog I've ever seen. Sir, I was referring more to the Soviet missiles. America freaked out as they realized what was going on. They were completely vulnerable, and they had to act fast. They knew that airstrikes or an invasion of Cuba would likely mean nuclear war with the Soviet Union. So Kennedy came up with another idea, a blockade. The US Navy announced it would stop and search any Soviet ships heading to Cuba, and would sink any that did not comply. In response, the Soviet put its military into full combat readiness. The US did the same, and began drawing up plans for an attack on Cuba. Things were escalating fast, and both superpowers were getting ready for World War III. Emergency communications between the two sides broke down as Khrushchev rejected Kennedy's demands for the missiles to be removed. And for the first time in history, US Strategic Air Command moved to DEFCON 2. DEFCON 1 means nuclear war.
Yep.
The Soviets shot down a U-2 spy plane over Cuba. A Soviet nuclear submarine in the Caribbean mistakenly believed war had already broken out, and two of the senior officers gave the go-ahead to fire its nuclear torpedo. Thankfully, the third senior officer, this beautiful man, refused to authorize the decision. The US finalized its preparations, and I kid you not, the day before, Soviet nuclear missiles to be removed. And for the first time in history, US Strategic Air Command
Someone's
moved to
about
DEFCON
to get
2.
liberated.
DEFCON 1 means nuclear war. The Soviets shot down a U-2 spy plane over Cuba. A Soviet nuclear submarine in the Caribbean mistakenly believed war had already broken out, and two of the senior officers gave the go-ahead to fire its nuclear torpedo. Thankfully, the third senior officer, this beautiful man, refused to authorize the decision. The
Oh,
US
somebody
finalized its
blow that
preparations, and
guy,
I kid
please. Fucking well.
you not, the day before the US were set to decide the day and time for the Cuban invasion, Khrushchev was like, hey, you know if you just removed your missiles from Turkey, we'd remove ours from Cuba? Yeah, that sounds good to me. It was a bit more complicated than that, but at the last second, the two sides finally came to an agreement. Soviet missiles were shipped out of Cuba, and the world breathed one gigantic sigh of relief. Except for one guy, who was bloody livid. Phew! Let's hope that's the biggest crisis of my presidency.
Well,
Unfortunately for him, his
your
presidency
brains, yeah.
was to end with one.
Yeah.
Having nearly blown up the planet, a few changes were made. First, the superpowers agreed to a limited test ban treaty.
Which,
Secondly,
by the way,
Soviets ousted
for anybody that doesn't know, I think that's where this Illuminati shit came from. Because this dude was talking about secret societies, and then he gets one in his head. So everybody thinks that, you know, the rap game is taken over by Freemasons, and Shaq's got a ring, and who knows what the fuck is going on anymore, dude. I don't know.
and replaced him with Leonid Brezhnev, who was a kisser. He liked to kiss. Both sides were deeply concerned at the prospect of nuclear war, but still, the arms race raged on throughout the 60s and 70s. U.S. intelligence...
Wait. Who's this guy? And where is he from again?
End with one. Having nearly blown up the planet, a few changes were made. First, the superpowers agreed to a limited test ban treaty. Secondly, the Soviets ousted Khrushchev and replaced him with Leonid Brezhnev, who was a kisser. He liked to kiss. Both sides were deeply concerned at the prospect of nuclear war, but still, the arms race raged on throughout the...
Can you imagine? You're trying to negotiate with this fucking guy, and he's trying to make out with you. Come here. No, stop it, dude, stop it, not now.
60s and 70s, US intelligence worked out that the Soviets' nuclear arsenal was not as powerful as they previously thought, but in fact, it was America that held the advantage. ABMs and MIRVs were developed, and the doctrine of MAD. If both sides knew they would be completely destroyed by a nuclear war, neither would risk starting one. But even without war, the world was already feeling the effects of nuclear weapons. In 1966, above the pleasant town of Palomares in Spain, a US bomber collided with a tanker mid-air, and 4 hydrogen bombs fell and landed near the town below. It hasn't exploded, so I'm sure everything's fine. Whoa, boy. Hey, I wouldn't eat that if I were you. Okay. What were you gonna do today? Go for a swim? Yeah, I wouldn't. Are you breathing right now? Yeah?
Stop doing that.
I wouldn't. It took the Americans 2.5 months to find one of the bombs, which had gone missing in the ocean. This was the 14th time America had lost a nuclear bomb since 1950. Nobody knows how many bombs...
You know what? You're flagged. You're done. You're done. Go lay down. Go lay down. It's over for you. 14 times, dude. You spill your drink once and your friends are breaking your balls. Can you imagine? 14 fucking times? It's done for you. Enough with the juice. You're done.
The Soviet Union lost. So sleep well tonight. After Kennedy's assassination, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson took over, and he inherited a developing crisis in the East, Vietnam. Back in the 50s, the Vietnamese had kicked the French colonizers out once and for all, and the country was divided into two. In the north, a communist regime, and in the south, an anti-communist regime. Both were led by very sweet-looking old men, but don't let that deceive you. They were both ruthless dictators, and both dreamed of reuniting Vietnam under their own regime. So the north established the National Liberation Front, also known as the Viet Cong, to carry out a campaign of guerrilla warfare in the south with Soviet support. The US sent advisors to help train the South Vietnamese to deal with the threat, but President Diem's brutal policies pushed more and more South Vietnamese.
Bro, what the fuck, dude? Okay, you know what? I'm probably gonna piss a lot of people off right now, but I don't care. How many times are you gonna do the same fucking dumb shit before you realize it don't work, bro? You did it and like, just keep doing it, dude. What's the fuck? Mind your fucking business, man. Mind your business. There's things going on here that y'all need to fix. Worry about that. Fuck out of other people's shit,
to support the Viet Cong. And over the next decade, the
annoying.
situation escalated to a breaking point. America feared the domino effect. That is, if South Vietnam fell to communism, would Cambodia be next? Right. Then Laos? Thailand? Burma? India? LBJ had to make a choice between losing South Vietnam or sending in the troops. And so in they went. From 1965, America found itself in a war unlike anything it had ever fought before. Let's play Spot the Viet Cong Soldier. Did you see him? Of course not. That's because millions of young American men were drafted and sent to fight a ruthless enemy who used the thick jungle as its shield. It was nearly impossible to tell where the enemy was, or worse, who it was. And as a result, the civilian population got caught up in the brutal crossfire. The city of Saigon found itself under regular attack, and America launched a bombing campaign in the north during Operation Rolling Thunder. The Viet Cong used the Ho Chi Minh Trail running through Laos and Cambodia to supply the campaign. It was
that's off of oh my god, Uncommon Valor, dude. That's a pass line, bro. He says I'm forced to sit back and wonder why I was a part of Operation Rolling Thunder. And a foxhole with 9 months left here. Come on, bro. You fucking with, dude. Jungle feel like the harbinger of death
justice in this video. But in terms of the Cold War, Vietnam was probably the biggest of many, many global conflicts that signaled a turning point. Under the threat of nuclear war, the two superpowers began working to make their relationship more constructive. And as a result, their ideological battle shifted away from the potential of direct conflict and more towards attempting to influence smaller proxy wars around the world. In the Middle East, the Soviet Union provided aid against Israel during the Six-Day War, and then again when the US backed Israel during the Yom Kippur War. In Africa, the Angolan Civil War saw US-supported South Africans fighting Soviet-supported Cubans. In the conflict between Somalia and Ethiopia, the superpowers interestingly switched sides as regimes changed, and the US continued fighting the spread of communism in its own backyard, funding the famous Contra groups to fight the socialist junta in Nicaragua. These proxy wars were fierce enough to begin with, but superpower intervention amplified the destruction and created alarming levels of human suffering throughout the Third World. And in Vietnam, that human suffering was all being broadcast back home via good old television. Going into the late 60s, America was a changing nation. This became this. This became this. And this became this. the new slogan that was taking root: make love, not war. The majority of Americans did not approve of Johnson's handling of the Vietnam War, and in 1968, a silent majority elected law and order candidate Richard Nixon. As the Vietnam War appeared to be increasingly unwinnable and public opinion turning increasingly sour, Nixon made the decision to begin bringing the troops home and ended U.S. involvement in Vietnam by 1973. 2 years later, the South fell. The Cold War was now taking its toll on both superpowers. In Russia, a huge percentage of the budget was still going to the military. People were still hungry, and they just didn't have access to the same lifestyle and goods as the West. And what did they have to show for it? They weren't even winning the space race anymore. Both sides needed to reduce spending in order to rescue their economies, and so both welcomed with open arms an easing of hostilities, otherwise known as détente. To improve relations, Nixon became the first king of hostility, spending in order to rescue their economies, and so both welcomed with open arms an easing of hostilities, otherwise known as détente.
The easing of hostility or strained relations, especially between countries, it's a kiss and make up, diplomatically speaking. They need to fight or blow each other and end it.
To improve relations, Nixon became the first U.S. president to visit Moscow in 1972, and Brezhnev returned the gesture a year later. A number of treaties were signed, including the 1972 SALT Agreement that limited nuclear weapons. Relations with China were even improving via diplomacy.
Did you notice the first time they only limited testing of nuclear weapons? Anybody else pick on that? I know I'm stupid, but the first time they only limited testing. They didn't say shit about using the fucking things, dude. Even though it's implied you would have to test it before you use it. I understand what. Shut up.
When the U.S. that limited nuclear weapons. Relations with China were even improving via ping-pong diplomacy when the U.S. table tennis team went on a tour of the People's Republic. However, internally, China was still pushing anti-capitalist propaganda, which led to some mixed messages. Nixon even visited China in 1972, and it was a barrel of laughs.
Yeah, they don't
Today,
like us.
the president walks among priceless treasures from China's golden age.
Look at
Among
that
them,
ugly
a pair
fuck.
of ear stoppers used by the emperor to keep from hearing criticism.
Bro, fuck that guy and his fucking drug war, dude. That's my beef. Just anybody curious? I'm sorry. Let me shut up now. Let the video speak for itself. Fucking asshole. Your wife
Visited
pops
China in
more
1972, and it was a barrel of laughs.
Dick.
Today, the president walks
Look at
among
her, high
priceless
as fuck,
treasures
bro.
from
Don't
China's
even know where
golden
she's at
age.
right now.
Among them, a pair of ear stoppers used
I
by
don't even know if that's the right lady, dude.
the emperor
Just talking
to keep
shit.
from hearing criticism.
You put the stopper into his ears so that he couldn't hear the criticism.
Give me a pair of
他是不是给我一对啊？
That's probably the only time anybody
Everything was-
laughed at one of your stupid jokes, dude. I say is I laugh at my own dumb jokes, but you know what? I'm kind of cool, bro, and you're a fucking nerd. So how about that?
Going great for Nixon, until it was uncovered that back home he was being a very naughty boy and violating constitutional protocol. I'm announcing today my resignation as president, and I'm passing the office to my vice president, Gerald Ford. Wow, you mean in America the people can actually remove their leader when he breaks the law? Why not just rule by force? Where's the corruption? And my first act as president is to pardon Nixon. Ah, there it is.
Yep.
After the whole fiasco,
Son of a
Americans decided
bitch.
what they really wanted was
Son
just
of
a nice,
bitch.
safe
Hold on,
guy.
I want to rewind that
Wow,
for a
say my
second.
resignation as president, and I'm passing the office to my vice president, Gerald Ford. Wow, you mean in America the people can actually remove their leader when he breaks the law? Why not just rule by force? Where's the corruption? And my first act as president is to pardon Nixon. Ah, there it is. After the whole fiasco, Americans decided what they really wanted was just a nice, safe
Son of
guy
a
who wouldn't
bitch.
cheat on them. So they elected Jimmy Carter, and the two sides met in Vienna where they signed yet another
Kiss,
strategic
kiss.
arms limitation treaty. It's an honor, Premier Brezhnev. Likewise, President Carter.
Come here.
Please don't do that.
Yeah,
But that's not to
please
say
don't
there was
do
no
that.
longer any tension between the two sides, because there was. Heaps of it. Once again, the Soviet Union put down further attempts at reform and rebellion in the Eastern Bloc. The Euro missile crisis saw new and improved classes of intermediate-range missiles being deployed in Europe. In 1979, the Soviets thought it would be a good
I
idea
thought
if
they
had
signed. I thought they signed a thing that said they weren't gonna do that, dude. Well, it's a different place. I think that's why.
their own Vietnam and invaded Afghanistan to prevent a US-sponsored Islamic insurgency. And in response to these various crises, Olympic Games were boycotted. Conservatives were concerned that US policy had become too soft. And in
You let 'em
1980,
kiss
they
you.
decided they wanted a president who would be tough on communism. So they elected Ronald Reagan. And Reagan came in.
Or is
guns
that the
blazing.
guy?
Concerned
I
with the
think
Soviet-
that might be the guy. I don't know. That might be the guy, dude. I might have fucked it up. I don't fuck both of them. You know what? Fuck both of them.
Soviet Union's human rights violations, he made a speech calling them an evil empire. And he also wanted to
I
remove
am
the
not
arms
a
race
crook,
using
it's the other
technological
guy,
advances
right?
in computing and lasers. He came up with the Space Defense Initiative, also known as Star Wars, which was basically a big defensive anti-nuke shield around the country. But a lot of people thought it was a pretty dumb idea. The Soviet Union perceived this shift in rhetoric as the USA getting ready for war, and they were feeling especially threatened as their relationship with their communist ally China had broken down. Relations took a big hit in 1983 when the Soviets shot down a Korean airliner that had strayed into their airspace, and it looked like the world was going right back to mid-20th century Cold War tension. But then Brezhnev got really old and died, and was replaced by this guy who was really old and died, and was replaced by this guy who was really old and died,
Until
and
we
he was
get
replaced by
what's his
Mikhail
name?
Gorbachev. Coming into office in 1985, he was the real game changer. His philosophy differed a lot from previous Soviet leaders. He felt that the reason the Soviet system and economy was struggling was that it didn't allow the Soviet people to find satisfaction in their work, because they weren't allowed to speak freely and lived in fear. Gorbachev wanted the Soviet people to be happy, but unlike previous Soviet leaders, he actually made the change happen. Within the first couple of years, he began the political movement for more openness and transparency, and the restructuring of the Soviet political and economic systems. And change very quickly took effect. People could criticize the government, they could enjoy Western pop culture, the media interviewed Margaret Thatcher, but most importantly, the Soviet people could now enjoy Pizza Hut. All hail to Gorbachev. He also knew that the arms race...
No. That's not, don't do that. A Pizza Hut? That's not the... That's what you send over as our representation? Fucking Pizza Hut? What, you want to give all of Russia diarrhea, dude? What is that about?
needed to end in order to rescue the Soviet economy, and a positive relationship with the West must be established. Constructive dialogue reopened and resulted in the INF Treaty, which saw all intermediate-range missiles eliminated, which was huge. Reagan's tone towards the Soviet Union began to soften, and things were looking up. But what would these reforms mean for the Eastern Bloc? For decades, the Soviets had been brutally suppressing any attempt at change. Now, would they be allowed? And that was the exact question on Hungary's lips when the Prime Minister visited Moscow. Gorbachev's response: he didn't necessarily agree with the reforms, but he wouldn't stop them either. He was prepared to let the Eastern Bloc choose its own future. This was massive, and the Hungarian leaders began planning free, multi-party elections. Poland followed suit and also held elections in June. The anti-Soviet party Solidarity won 99 out of 100 seats in the Senate. But not just that. In Hungary, the barbed wire border between East and West was removed. The Iron Curtain was unraveling. But not all Eastern Bloc leaders were happy. Notably, East Germany was still ruled by a hardline Stalinist, Erich Honecker, and many East Germans were still eager to get out. They had been trapped by the Berlin Wall, but now they were doing the math. If they could travel to Hungary, and Hungary's border with the West was loosening, could they now make it to the West? That summer, East Germans decided Hungary was the latest top holiday destination. They traveled there in droves, and using various methods, tens of thousands crossed the border into Austria and the West. Honecker was furious and blocked travel to Hungary, but that civil liberties train had started rolling, and it wasn't stopping. Thousands more flocked to the West German embassy in Prague, where they stormed the fence around the embassy gardens, and a temporary refugee camp was set up. In September, deals were struck to allow the refugees to travel west via train. Back in East Germany, the people were running on a civil liberties high, and they wanted their next hit. Dissent was growing. Over time, demonstrations turned to mass protest, with plainclothes secret police officers doing their best to put down the dissent, but it had grown well out of their control. And worse, the biggest demonstration was yet to come. We're gonna put all of this down by force, right guys? Guys? Unfortunately, everyone had realized what he had not. This was bigger than them, and the entire East German Politburo voted him out of power. On November 4th, over 500,000 East Germans took to the streets of East Berlin. For many, there was still one big target left in their sights: that damn wall. The pressure on the East German government was too great, and on November 9th, they made a bit of a chaotic announcement that the travel ban between East and West was being lifted. The change wasn't meant to take effect until the next day, and crossing guards still had orders to shoot on sight any who tried to cross. But that night, huge crowds gathered at the crossing points, and the guards were overwhelmed. In an astronomically historic moment, after decades of family separation and travel restriction, the people were allowed to pass through. East and West Berliners couldn't believe it, and celebrated together throughout the night. Some even climbed the wall and began to topple it. The Iron Curtain had fallen, and a year later, Germany would be reunited. Elections in Bulgaria,
at least something decent,
revolution.
at least something fucking decent has happened in all of this. It's fucked up that you had to take something terrible and say that it's decent just to, you know,
in Czechoslovakia and a violent one in Romania brought to an end communist authority in the Eastern Bloc. America decided it would be best if it just stayed away and let the change happen, as the anti-communist movement continued all the way back to Moscow. Gorbachev had given the people the freedom to demonstrate. Now, they demonstrated for an end to the communist single...
When I say this fucking guy, I mean his son, not him. What's he say? Fool me once, you can't fool me again. Something like that.
Party rule, and Gorbachev had to give in. For the first time in history, elections were held in which candidates not officially endorsed by the party were allowed to run. Ambitious rival of Gorbachev, Boris Yeltsin, led a growing democratic movement. Now things here get quite...
I'm sorry, I was doing George Bush badly.
If it just stayed away and let the change happen, as the anti-communist movement continued all the way back to Moscow. Gorbachev had given the people the freedom to demonstrate. Now, they demonstrated for an end to the communist single-party rule, and Gorbachev had to give in. For the first time in history, elections were held in which candidates not officially endorsed by the party were allowed to run. Ambitious rival of Gorbachev, Boris Yeltsin, led a growing democratic movement. Now things here get quite confusing, and the dissolution of the Soviet Union is a complicated topic. So,
what's his name's been president for like 100 years, whatever it is.
Believe me, this is oversimplified, but it went a little bit like this. The Soviet Union was made up of a number of smaller Soviet republics, the largest of which was Russia. Yeltsin got himself elected the president of Russia and began a struggle for sovereignty against Gorbachev and the greater Soviet Union. Communist hardliners were horrified at what Gorbachev was allowing, so they briefly kidnapped him and tried to set up their own emergency government. But Yeltsin and his supporters all gathered around the White House in Moscow and were like, no, we have a tank. So the hardliners had to concede and released Gorbachev. Wow, thanks Boris. That was a close one. No problem. And thanks to you for all the great freedom you've given us. Yeah. Anytime, pal. And just to inform you, I've used that freedom you've given us to go behind your back and make a deal with Ukraine and Belarus to dissolve the Soviet Union and set up the Russian Federation. In other words, you're no longer in charge. I am.
Yep. Saw that coming.
So uncool. And so decades of tension and the everlasting threat of nuclear war finally came to an end as democratic governments were established in many of the old Soviet republics. And the world got along together forever after. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Hey, this modern art thing is...
Can you imagine, bro? I really hope not, dude. World War III coming soon. It will. It will. It's gonna happen. It just fuck it. These people won't stop, dude.
Where can I learn to do that? Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with classes in design, technology, business, and more.
I thought we talked about this, dude. I don't have the money for this account right now.
How to code your own games and apps. Learn a musical instrument. Learn how to animate videos like mine. Learn Japanese. Premium membership gives you...
I barely speak English.
Unlimited access to all of these classes and more. And better yet, everything is taught by genuine experts working in their field. Skillshare is also more affordable than other learning platforms, with an annual subscription being less than $10 a month.
Cool.
What's that? You wish you had an exclusive deal just for oversimplified viewers? Well,
I wish I had $10.
No more, my friend. The first 500 people to use this link, which can be found in the description below, will get their first 2 months for absolutely free. Plus, you'll be supporting my channel and keeping these videos coming. So be sure to use the link in the description box below and learn something new today.
I mean, look at your numbers, dude. You do it better than me. Bro, I'm not even watching this for school. I haven't been in school and I don't even know how many years, bro. I'm learning shit. I'm ignorant, dude. Paying attention. Just too worried about who is gonna kick my ass. You know what I mean? That's what you're worried about. Are you breathing right now? I wouldn't. Never hire more actors. You argue with yourself is the funniest thing ever. Oh, shit. I think we're good now, right? Are they trying to... Fuck, they're trying to rope me in. Well, we're about to do this again, aren't we? The way that these fucking maniacs are carrying on. You're gonna make me do this, aren't you? Well, you know what? Even if I just do it, watch it for me. Yeah, why not? Learn a little bit about my own goddamn country.